Hello, welcome. Let me present myself. I'm Marijke van Kets and I am a member of the SBC, and this committee represents, the only part of it, the Education Committee of Imago. And what is the Education Committee? We were established in 2013 and have organized 3 conferences in 2014, 17 and 19, and which were very successful. Cinematographers from all over the world, and especially the ones teaching, came, and we had this really nice connection networks, out of which flew other connections with other funding agencies, which is always very important. And until today, there are collaborations between different schools because of that. But then the pandemic hit, and 2020, our next conference stalled, and then things changed and things happened, and I retired as a chair. I'm now here because Ella couldn't make it. But we are mainly here to talk to you and to look for new enthusiastic people out there to join again this journey that we've been doing, and to collaborate and to find new ways to work around cinematography, and especially in the teaching. We've also set up a group which is called CITO, and which is very narrowly related to the Education Committee, which is more the academic side, because after the 3rd conference in Brussels in 2019, we really felt that we needed a place where we could publish and reach out also in more scientific circles, beyond the cinematography circles. So that again, same thing, it's still out there, but because of all these things happening, it has lost a bit of its momentum. So we are here now to ask you and to talk to you and to see if we can find more people out there who are wanting to put their shoulders under this project and to continue this journey. I have retired. And so, but next to me, because we're talking about the future, we have other people out there ready to do this. So the conference itself, for now, I've organized around 2 teams, and so as we are wanting to reach out to you, we will do a quick overview and the thoughts of the panel members around that team, and then we will open up a Q&A to hear your opinions and ideas. If we do so, there is a microphone here, and it would be great if you can state who you are, and if you are affiliated to a school or university, which one it is. So the first research question that we were thinking about is how the advancements in emerging technologies influences our pedagogical approaches, which is a huge theme, of course, because it's like revolutionary. So I've asked our panel members to share with us what's going on in their schools and how they are tackling this. Peter.
Okay, welcome from my side. My name is Peter Slansky, and I am the technology professor from the Munich University for Television and Film here in Munich. Some of you might have seen me yesterday presenting something about lenses, about LED lighting, and about extreme cinematography. It's quite special that a small film school, we have just 350 students, not more, has a technology department. That's quite unique in the world. There are about 200 film schools. They are all organized in the World Association, so we know each other quite well, and unfortunately I never found a counterpart in any other film school that does the same job as I do. By the way, if you want to have my job, you can still apply. I retire as well, and you can apply until Sunday, so hurry up if you like to. So this is mainly it, and I will give you an idea what we do in the next thing.
Hello everybody, my name is Stefan Grandinetti. I'm from Hochschule der Medien in Stuttgart. I'm professor there for cinematography, and this university is a university for applied sciences, and my students, our students there, have the degree of engineers in the bachelor, and there is a Master of Science coming on top, which is a little bit unusual for Germany. And because this school is oriented, we call it like 50% for arts and 50% engineering. So we are aiming actually at an unusual area, and we are looking or educating bridge people, understanding both worlds, artistic concepts and engineer solutions for them. And that's what we do in the master's program for science. I choose there usually questionnaires that come from the aesthetics or from storytelling, and we try to solve them with technology competences. And this is, for instance, high dynamic range subject or higher frame rates right now. And we are touching a lot of questions in virtual production. And that's why we build up an XR lab now for scientific tests and so on. And we like to open up to the international ideas. So we are collaborating with other film schools in, for instance, Erasmus projects, the BIPs, Blended Intensive Projects. They are funded, and we can work together with groups like for 3 or 4 universities on one subject for 1 week in one school, and then we go around and meet there and meet the different competences and philosophies of education there, which is a lot of fun and very successful. I love that. Okay, hand over.
Hi, I'm Jana Johnston, and I'm working at HFF in the technical department together with Professor Slansky, which makes my introduction very much shorter because he already told you a lot of what HFF Technical Department, or we'll talk about what HFF Technical Department is doing, so I'll just hand over right away.
Okay, good morning everybody. My name is Rauno Ronkainen and I'm professor in cinematography in Aalto University, Helsinki, Finland. And our university is a combination of art school, engineers and business school. But our roots, actually, over 10 years ago, our university was called University of Industrial Arts, which means that that section in Aalto University has roots very much in art making. Things have changed quite a lot during the past years because we are pretty much involved because of the connections as well and because of the modern aims. Let's say like that we are working with modern technology. So, for example, on the next fall, we are running again. Third time already the virtual production workshop, which is actually 7 weeks long, where we really deep dive into this concept. But I would say that most of the technologies which we are teaching are not just like technologies, so they are always connected somehow to the mainly connected to this kind of artistic approaches as well, which has been some challenges as well. So we have to divide these contents of the workshop so that in which stages we are clearly focusing on some specific areas, so we are not confusing the students. But and the other aspect is that in our university it's highly supported to have different kind of pools where people can and students and teachers actually can meet and handle these topics of mainly technology, but once again, how they are related to the art creating.
So this was the introduction. I'm quickly going to ask Peter to give me maybe an example or an overview of what you do in regards with specifically about the new technology.
Well, in general, in Germany, there's a lot of funding for research about technology. So it's not the question that there is not enough money, but you have to apply for. For our school, for a long time, they were not used to the idea of going into competitions for the big universities, for money for research or transfer or something like that, what the big universities, what we call the big universities, do. But our chairman, Siegfried Vörsel, who came into charge about 2019, shortly after the Brussels conference, but not connected to that, he has big experience in that because his main job is in the Fraunhofer Institute. Fraunhofer is a big organization. They have 30,000 employees, and lots of different institutes, and they are used to apply for scientific funding. And he kind of inspired us, especially also me, to take part in competitions for universities and to play a positive role there, because we were so small, we are so unique, we are we can present ourselves there as a shining marvel among the big institutions, and a jury that is giving some millions of states money for something always is pleased if they have a little marvel in their portfolio. So with this in mind, we participated in the first competition of the Free State of Bavaria, so federal system of Germany, and the Free State of Bavaria made a competition for 50 AI professorships with full team. 50. So this is a huge number. There were 175 applications, ours as well. We are by far the smallest university that took part there, and we were successful. So we left 125 applications behind us, and now we are one of the very few film schools that has an own professor for AI research. And this is Sylvia Rote with her team. And the challenge is to integrate a research professor from a university. She's a mathematics, IT, and also she's a filmmaker. So to integrate this into our teaching schedule as an art school. And this is an open process. There is no perfect solution, and still we are struggling with some issues of that. We can talk about that later. But just to give you an idea of the strategy HFF had. And by the way, internally, it was not by far that everybody cheered and applauded, because it was also the fear that this could dominate the artistic education. But nevertheless, as we were successful, we continued and took part in another competition of the federal government in Berlin, the BMBF. I call it. You don't know you must not know the acronym. It's about for research and science, and they have an even bigger funding, so-called innovative university. And for the second round, we applied with the concept of a creative center. The creative center, you have seen some of these. I see one member of the staff here. Please raise your hand. Sarah Rotter. Okay. And Malte Schulz in the last line. So we are present here as well. Overall, the creative center, make it short, we were successful again with our application. Out of 16 projects, we made one success and could establish this creative center with 16 employees overall, 13 of them inside our university, addressing with three sub projects: the Creative Innovation Lab, Integrative Production Management, and archiving and mediathek. So the two smaller sub-projects were very closely related to our work in the film school, because the production of the films, there is no general management, and we try to do that transform that into a digital platform and environment, and go away a little bit from the very manufacturing style that our university practices. And the third one is the HFF Film Heritage. So unfortunately in our university nobody cares about the films after they finished the last festival. And now this problem is addressed. But the main thing is the Creative Innovation Lab, and the team here is from the Creative Innovation Lab, and we are addressing emerging technologies with that. Not so much in scientific research in a technical way, but more in the interconnection to the artistical education and the problems that arise between the technical part and the educational part and the artistic part. So this is a kind of triangle, and I will give practical example from a workshop 2 weeks ago where we worked together and experienced certain challenges, because we never have to forget that our students are more arts oriented, and we are overall under the law of Bavarian Free State, we have an art school, arts university, but we have to cope with these challenges from the emerging technologies, and that is our philosophy. Do it on your own. Apply for the money, buy a virtual production system, costs a lot of money, yes. Build up the competence in the team, do it on your own. Are not relying on the commercial providers. You have to visit them, yes, it's very interesting, but it's a little bit like, yes, we have the same system, very small, in our own university, and that makes a good exchange. That's our philosophy.
Thank you, Peter. Interesting. We'll get back to it, I'm sure.
Okay.
But Stefan, how are you tackling it?
Yes, so since I'm from the Media University in Stuttgart, this is not a classical film school. It's for media and for engineers. So the contribution is to work with special technologies, with emerging technologies, and take this somehow serious. And so we invented the term creative engineers for our students. And I like to cite my dean. He once said, "That's a miracle what you're doing." They're coming people dreaming from Hollywood that maybe didn't make it to the film school in the first hand, and then suddenly they discover many things they find interesting, and then they are industry workers after the studies, like for post-production or so on. Maybe ideally colorists. They understand, as I said before, artistic concepts, but they know how to build a technical workflow for that. So it makes sense to embrace emerging technologies, because this is the future, and we are educating people for the future in the industry. And we try to collaborate with film schools, and because we have not the production facilities as the classical film schools, we are limited there. But from the quality of the technology, we are quite high. So it makes totally sense to find projects where we can play the ball back and forth and have the Schnittmenge. What's this in English, actually? Use the Schnittmenge from
Germanism.
from both approaches and meet there. And that's why I like to collaborate in these even international projects like the BIPs, and share the philosophies and learn from that. And from my experience and practice, this works really, really well if you have a time frame to discuss all these things and to meet, and if there's not too much time pressure. So.
Thank you, Stefan. So Jana, you're part of Peter's team. How does it work in reality?
In reality, I thought I'd give some input on how we work with the students. What I noticed is that with teaching new technologies, we also have to teach critical thinking, and for AI especially, also questions of creative ownership and ethics. What I noticed, we have some workshops with AI, for example, that sometimes students tend to use AI to just use it. Oh, I forgot my word now. I'm so sorry. Not adapt. Oh, sorry. I lost it. Okay. They use it to just generate everything, not thinking about how they can use that to improve what they already have in their minds. And I think that's very important to teach, that where you should that you should adapt by using it to extend what you already have in your mind, and not just letting that be the creative part and stay the creative part yourself. I think it's very important to still teach the manual way of doing stuff, the traditional way of getting to a point of something, and to take a look at how the new technologies can help you to get there faster or get there in a better way even. And I noticed that we need to change our assignments we give to the students in that special part, because if you think of creating a storyboard, even if you can't draw, it's way easier now to get to a visually good-looking storyboard, but you get easily sucked into giving the creativity away to AI. And I think for that concrete example, you need to, for example, let students create a storyboard using AI maybe, and then rework what AI gives you with your own thoughts and your own knowledge of what a storyboard should look like. Or even do one option of something using AI and one option by yourself, well, the other way around in that case, and analyze what the differences are and how the new tech can help you. But I think we will look into what we have for assignments in the next part. So I'll just give it back to you.
Thank you, Jana. So Rauno, how are you doing that at your school?
Okay, I have two aspects in here. First of all, what Peter said is actually very relevant, because the present government has cut it down quite a lot of our funding from universities, so we are kind of desperate searching for funding from EU and from other sources as well. And it seems to be so that the technical aspects are easier to get, and if you mention ever the sustainability and whatever, and that's just a hard fact. So we have to cope with that and do our application processes from that perspective. But as Peter said as well, then we just make it to work for ourselves in a way, so that how we create the content of workshops and this, the whole thing, so that it fits to our program and our purposes and our vision about combining the technologies and art education. And what we are really lacking at the moment, even though we are really kind of a technology area oriented university in general, but we don't have a combination of, for example, not the AI department separately. And I have been speaking about quite a lot that whether we should have, because we have, for example, separate art education for our students, which is organized by the different authorities or different departments. Whether we should have this kind of a common AI section as well, and then we can use the basic knowledge in our own departments, education and so on. So I think that we are still on the way to that, and it's also quite shattered this in our university, because there are lots of activities, there are a lot of, like I said, different pools where people are searching these let's say answers or trying to do the research of this, but we are missing this sort of an covering body for the whole thing, and that's why I'm also interested to be in here, just to hear that how people have organized that in for example, in Munich. For example, we don't have a professor in cinematography as concerning the technology, so that I'm the only one actually in our university, and then we have a lecturer in cinematography who's also present in here. So this is another thing. But then when we speak about these modern technologies or emergent technologies, at the background I have all the time to talk that how and why we are combining them to the traditional technologies and art making or filmmaking, because that's how we create this critical thinking to our students as well. And with critical, I don't mean that it's a critical like that you shouldn't use, but how you should use and what is the advantage of using the modern technologies, because they have to have a comparison as well, and ability to use this kind of a traditional methods, and then so that they can evaluate this, how it affect of their created work, and especially the working processes and to final outcomes. Like you mentioned, Jana, about this, for example, storyboarding or something. So, and yesterday I had this speech that is not during the process. Maybe the fascinating outcome is not the most important thing. It's just the process itself. So that how you think, what you try to create. And I have been quite many occasions saw this, that it's difficult to keep this aim on the most important things during the process, so that not just tempted about the new technologies and think that it's enough. And could it also include that it's more or less guiding to the vision to the same direction, because it's especially when it's related to the AI, which I see also, because I forgot to mention that I'm also working as a cinematographer all the time and working as a freelancer cinematographer. So I'm constantly observing this, how it affects to my work on the field. Well, those are the key things maybe at this point.
Okay, that was very interesting, and I would like to pick up 2-3 things here. Funding, but locally, state-wise, but also EU, right? There is something out there, it's called Film EU, which is more academic, which we should also a bit talk about, because it's one of those things that already just here at the table, we can hear art, engineering, science. And I think that's very often missing, is not that it's not out there, but that we miss the links sometimes. And that's exactly why we're here today, hopefully, to find some of those links and routes and paths towards funding, collaboration, networking. So I would like to open up here. It's not a Q&A, it's more let's talk, and who would like to present themselves and say are interested to work and collaborate. There is a microphone there.
Well, I have something that I would like to say as well. You mentioned now Film EU for a moment, and we, Hochschule der Medien Stuttgart, we are just applying, and we are in the application phase to enter the circle of Film EU, because from an academic point of view, and we see there our currency are not festivals, it's publications for scientific work. And if I see cinematography, maybe in my case, could be a deep dive in a certain technology that could be related to AI, to virtual production, to higher frame rates or higher dynamic range. That means we have to generate publications, and this was a certain problem in the past. To find spots, because we are nor the 100% engineers or the 100% artists there. So where do we do this? And that's why we founded the scientific journal CITO, because we have subjects there. We can publish even a thesis of students, because they are quite interesting and they are all giving a full picture of the work that or subjects we are sharing anyway. And this makes a lot of sense to me. Plus, that I think we should offer our students an opportunity to become one day to get a PhD in fine art sections, because you won't get a job in Europe as a professor, because if you don't, will have this in the future. This is already in many countries the case. Germany is maybe one of the last ones where it's not the case. But if you look around, this is coming more and more, and this is a logical thing coming from the bachelor and master systems that we all have already. So this is another thing that we see looking into the future, that we should build up this and cultivate. And this is done. For instance, I know my friend Alan Lottman from in Tallinn. They're doing really well, and they have 8 or 10 PhD cinematography students. And for me, this is some years ago. This was quite new, this idea, and a little bit weird. But now I'm getting much more into it, and it makes much more sense to me. And this is another thing I discovered, and we should build up more and find for ourselves and celebrate it.
Yeah, I can talk from my own experience. I did my PhD, but I had to go to the communication. There was no PhD for me in the arts. They actually literally told me, we are not here to give out PhDs. That was at the film school, because it was only for directors. And then so I had to go to communication science in another university. Since then, yes, we will have PhDs in the arts, in cinematography. But yeah, it's not a given. It's not And so it's a very exciting thing to do, to look at. So any thoughts on this?
Marijke? I would like to ask a question to the audience. I think we have, in general, we have the special situation that the subjects of cinematography, most of the teachers are freelancers still, just like Rauno. And that's not the case in other subjects on film schools. In cinematography, it's very, very special. So even the full-term professors, like my colleague Christian Rhein, they remain a freelancer cinematographer and shooting some films each year. So that's a strong fact. And my question is, who of you has the idea that this is a normal way of teaching and this is a positive way of teaching? And what is your idea in this system that you work as cinematographers, as freelancers mostly, and how do you balance the question of my personal competence, my knowledge that I gain by my projects, and now as our subject is emerging technologies, how I'm on the first front of cinematography facing new technologies, how do I bring into my teaching? This would be very interesting for me. How do you balance that? Can I stimulate anyone to answer? Yeah. Thank you. Icebreaker. Welcome.
Hello. I'm Jonathan Harvey, lecturer in cinematographer in cinematography at the Aalto University. I work with Rauno. Mm-hmm. And this is an interesting discussion because I think by bringing in freelance cinematographers, you are bringing in people who have knowledge of the field and have knowledge of collaboration. And I think cinematographers they don't work alone, they work with a group of people. And I think that is one of the things that we teach. Mm-hmm. And that collaboration and communication with the other members of the crew, especially director and production designer, is crucial to know how that works. So perhaps the best teachers, I think, are practicing cinematographers. Does that answer the question in a way?
Well, I was not out for a final answer. Yeah, because there are very many different approaches, and I will just give you something back. We have some internal discussions about cinematography as being very male-dominated subject inside our arts university. So, for example, in script writing, there is no male domination. In directing, they are dealing with that topic, but for example, also in production, we have very equal numbers of applications, but not in cinematography. Is that related to this kind of, you said it's a teamwork, but in a big team, it's also a hierarchical work. That the DOP is at the top of a team that has some kind of a pyramid, and then, this is all modern thinking about working in hierarchies.
Well, firstly, I'd like to say about the male-female balance. Our first year BA are all women. We have 4 women
in cinematography.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, they were the best. They were they were the best image makers and the best critical thinkers. That's the way it was.
That's really interesting. Mm-hmm.
You guys.
Sorry, I'll pass this on to someone else.
Okay. No. It's very interesting, and by coincidence, you actually went to my second research question, which was, the exercise adaptation to prepare for future cinematographer for their changing role in the film crew. So you kind of launched because that's another very important part. It's not only the technology which changes, but also the role the cinematographer will have within the crew. And you're talking about hierarchy. That's from the past, I think, I hope. I mean, the structural domination. But I would first like to invite some more members to maybe step out of your little bubble and tell us why you're here and who you are, because this is the main aim of this whole discussion. Yeah, like Peter said, we're not here to find all the solutions today, but we'd like to talk to each other.
Hello, my name is Velimir. I'm from Bulgaria, from a visual production company. We are not in the educational field, but we are working hard now to incorporate AI in our processes. So if I just wanted to comment the topic about the creativity of the person and the creativity of the AI. I find this very interesting, but I'm not sure how you can stimulate the human part of it, because usually our designers, I'm also a VFX artist, in a way AI artist, we use already generated by the AI images and manipulate them. So we are taking one creativity that is already AI and developing it from there. That was it. If you could share also any practical data about the programs you use or the investigations you do, it would be great.
Well, I don't have the input on the software we're using at HFF, because that do people do from different departments, because we have the Silvia Rote does that. But about the thinking, what I think works quite good for generating content and still being the creative one is if you want to use software to create something, you can, for example, take ChatGPT, take Copilot if you want to, and if you're stuck, you could ask it what input it would need from you to give you good output, and then you get a list of questions you can think about yourself if you get stuck, and then put away the computer, take a paper, take a pen, and think about what you want as an outcome from the picture you have or from the video you want. Answer those questions and then put it back in, and then you can get an outcome with whatever you really thought what you wanted to have. Even better would it be to sit down, first think of what you really want to do, and then do the step I said before, ask the AI what it needs from you, and see where that corresponds, and then put it back in. Because if you just go to any text generation or image generation and ask it to give you any picture of, say you want a picture of a sad woman, don't know why it just came into my head, you would just get what the AI would think in, well, calculate as a picture of a sad woman. But I mean, there are different ways of what sadness would look like or could look like, and you haven't thought about the setting, you haven't thought about what is around, and writing that down first before generating, you can get the explicit content that you really want to have. Is that answering what you wanted to ask?
Yeah, it's a really good approach.
I can add some very practical aspects, because in the beginning, if you don't have the experts, if you don't have the software, and you don't have the curricula, you have a lot of problems that interact with themselves. So very practically establish an AI lab. I think any government right now would not fund an AI lab in a university is really doing bad job. So that's right now it's still a hot topic. The whole Congress of the World's Association of Film Schools last year in Peking was about AI and its impact on film education. So that was the really one hot topic that shook everybody. And so there's no other way than building up the competence in the own house, not being dependent on let's say, bigger universities that send you an expert for AI to explain it to the artists, but try to build it up on your own. Make a lab with some computers in it, and especially buy the licenses from the funding for the programs that the students can have the contact with the relevant programs. And you also need, and that was our AI research department does, permanent monitoring of what is on the market. So they sometimes they make online meetings with all the other teachers in our school, only describing what has come up next for still image generation, for moving image generation, and so on, and also the hardware requirements to run these programs. There are some hardware requirements. So build it up on your own as a small nucleus, and then expand it into university. That's my advice. That costs money. Apply for it. Go into competition.
I am Jean. You hear me? Yes, I am Jean-Paul Jarry. I am teaching cinematography in French schools. So I answer more generally to the question, maybe more for Peter, because I think for the students it's very important to teach them what is cinematography and to separate cinematography of new technologies. New technologies, it was digital, all digital. Now it's all AI. So what will it be? And I think for students, they must understand that cinematography is to create frame with a lens and a sensitive support, whatever the new technology or the technology are. And I think important the school has a right place for them to integrate what it is and to think of all what you said, all the creation, all what they have in their mind. One day, it's important for them to have this in their mind, and one day they will deal with whatever the surrounding they are going to work in. That's my principle of teaching.
Well, of course, we never abandon what we do on our daily business, like teaching cinematography. So, of course, this is all my advice to you is on the fundamentals of knowing and teaching what cinematography is. That's not a substitution. Don't misunderstand me.
Hello, my name is Philipp Eibel. I work with the Fraunhofer Institute for Integrated Circuits. Hello from Professor Füssel. I wanted to maybe elaborate or also go to the point that Professor Slansky brought up the question of balancing freelance experience with research of new technologies, and also what Professor Ronkainen said. I think both parts are equally important, because of course you can research all you want on new technologies as we do, and I often feel that we are lacking on the other side the production experience to actually learn about how well these technologies fit into current workflows, and which one of those are already being applied in a non-experimental and maybe not even student film, but commercial production workflows. And do you have any, or is there a kind of shortish answer? Like, how far has AI technology already penetrated the productions that you work on as a freelancer, as opposed to maybe, let's say, 5 years ago?
I can answer on that in that sense that, for example, the film which I just shot, and now it's in the post-production, we have started grading and the editing has been locked. When we started to do the film, the whole concept art was done with AI. And I kind of struggled with that because it looked like that. I said that this looks like a video game rather than a real film. And my input was just to make it, let's say, to rough and according to the means of cinematography and get it out from that lookbook, which was actually selling good around the world because it looked fascinating and it looked nice and so, but it's not a real film. So we had to make a recreation for the film. But it worked for marketing for the film, actually. So why not on that sense? But the artistic aims were somewhere else. I give one very, very concrete, little bit childish example of now, which are relating this the necessity of understanding the tradition and the modern techniques and how we can think about it in education as well. Because I remember once when we were doing a film and I saw a director was at the same time he was doing the post for one TV series which was related to the pirates during the 16th century in Baltic Sea. And he looked really desperate in the breakfast and what's going on, and he said that they just can't make this image in VFX, which needs to be the scope, observe a ship on the sea. And he was quiet over a moment, and then he took a glass from the table and iPhone and shot that same image which was in the screen through that photo glass. And he sent it to the VFX and said that, can you create this? Because this is really the combination, because AI can not necessarily a threat us all, but it has to be understood how we can implement it to our work. And so all the modern technologies and give the opportunities to expand our vision in that sense, that how we can use it in our advance. But that's also how it's so deep, kind of important that we are really open to these questions, so that we are not locked all the time, because we can go further all the time. And this is very natural for our, I would mean only cinematography, but the filmmaking, that we have faced these challenges all the time throughout the filmmaking history. And they are really much like a technology related, because this creates something new as well, in that sense that what we can know. It motivates the imagination, let's say like that.
Yeah, innovation creates also innovation. So that's great, we should embrace it. But that doesn't mean it has to be king. We have to make use of it. You know, we all learned in film school that once the camera, sound came, so the camera was locked and couldn't move anymore, and etc. And then, again, other things. And so it's always been like that. Technology comes, and first, you have the ones who become traditional and refuse it, but then it will be embraced and it will be put to good use, and as long as you master it. But just what you're also advising your students to go back to pen and paper, I like that. So okay, let's see what AI gives us, and then write it down with pen and paper, and then transform it. But I would also like to react to the fact that you feel that you're a little bit disconnected from the field, from the practitioners, and yes, that's one of the reasons why this committee wants to work is to be and the CITO is to be that bridge between the scientific community and between these practitioners, and the practitioners who very often also teach in film schools more in a practical role, very often as freelancers, as lecturers. They come in for maybe one workshop. And but so this bridge is super important for everybody involved, because people working out there in the field might not have time to do the research. And that's why we are here now to get today together. That we hopefully after this conference seminar, I don't know how to call this, we exchange contacts and so on, and we keep in contact, and you join the committee. Honestly, the committee hasn't been doing their work, but we need people to come on board and to start putting these links so that the guy from, I don't know how to pronounce yours, Institute Schaunhofer, no, what was it?
Fraunhofer. Fraunhofer.
Fraunhofer. To get in contact with the cinematography community who is out there shooting.
Yeah, yeah, we have a little bit of a connection, of course, through our department head, Professor Füssel, who is at the Hochschule für Fernsehen and Film. But still, yeah, I always wish there would be a more direct exchange between people in actual film production, on set or in post, with us. I mean, it's not like we're not all of us and on both sides aren't trying, but in everyday life it's always difficult because all the other things that you're supposed to do all day and that the projects that you work on get in the way of spending time to actually make that exchange happen. And that's always what Professor Slansky said, the problem of finding a good balance between getting your work done but also learning new stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe we could just talk about it later or get in touch. Maybe there's a way where we can improve on that connection to the actual practice of filmmaking.
Yeah, I'm sure there is a possibility because we found and we're still looking for ways. Very often has to do with funding, because that frees people. You know, if you have money to pay somebody.
Yes, but Marijke, we have to be frank. There is a general problem of bridging two different worlds. And I don't think that funding is the first problem. Thinking is the first problem. I experienced that for the whole time of my work in HFF. And in kind of way, I have this bridge inside myself because I made two diplomas as an engineer and as a artist or something like that. And what we suffer from, I don't think only in Germany, but maybe that in the US it has been better for a long time. They have an academy that gives prizes for technicians as well as for artists. And here it's different worlds. I was always trying to bring them together. Give you an example. In 2014, I initiated a very small symposium between lens designers and cinematographers. And there was a certain point when I started, okay, now this seems to be exploding. People shouting at each other, but in the end it was very interesting, and a lens designer from a very famous German company said, well, I never had an experience like that. I never had to face the users of our products in our world, and first I had the impression they do not really value what we do. And in the end, I have to ask myself. About the perspective on my job, because I'm making a technical product that others use to create art. And so for this man, it was at the end of his 50s. So it was the first time in his job to bridge this world. But this is old problem. And I think with the new emerging technologies, especially AI, but also virtual production, this problem gets new actuality. And there should be a forum where the different partners meet, and that's kind of bridging the world of classic cinematography, of new technologies, of also those who make the money out of it. I mean, after all, it has to be paid by someone, hopefully by the audience and not by dark companies in the background. So bridging the worlds.
There's, by the way, one thing I want to mention about when we are talking about these traditional and modern technologies, and Jonathan a little bit mentioned about that as well, that what should be considered from my point of view when we are teaching students, because we are teaching them in the future role for the leadership, which is that whatever the technologies they face in the future, they should be able to kind of have the control in their own hands, and we can't kind of predict that what's going to happen in the future, but we can give them this kind of a ground or foundation of the profession so that they are working in the leadership role, and they will work in the collaboration with different departments, which will develop throughout the changing history of the filmmaking as well. So how to get this kind of education for the students? So that's one of the key questions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was kind of the second question that we were doing. So the huge question is what about the changing role of cinematographers? Because I think since I started, it has changed enough. I was a trainee with Henri Alecan, and he was the guy from The Beauty and the Beast and Dastan der Dingen and Van Winders and so on. This was this huge man, and I was a 20-year-old trainee, but he would just have his gaffer hang the studio, which was on location, it wasn't a studio, hang around with lights and cremers and with a little number, and he would walk in and then say which number he wanted being lit. That is unthinkable these days. So there has this changing role, but now specifically we are talking about a changing how to teach that changing role. Because you're talking about the future cinematographer, but I can honestly not even imagine it. For me, my imagination is too short from how the role is going to be in the future of cinematographers. Do we still teach them that they are head of departments? I don't know. What do you think?
I think they are, because they're supposed to know this possible. Of course, we can't kind of assume that what kind of combinations there are in among different productions, different among the crews. They can create them by themselves, and that's usually depending on the director, that what the director wish. But anyway, I think that our cinematographers, when they graduate from our school, they're supposed to have this knowledge about, like I said, the leadership and creative leadership, so that they can work on that position in the future. There are a couple of things I want to mention. Again, for example, this male domination, because this we can address to the female in cinematography. I counted that after the camera image last year, when they had this conflict, so that since 2018 we have took in 19 male cinematographers and 18 female cinematographers. And you asked that how is possible? It have to be a conscious decision how to make this sort of for example, intake exam system aware of things that maybe change it from aiming only to the final outcome to the process and having a conversation and trying to get into that what they are aiming to, and then try to teach them, because we can't just assume that they are ready when they come in. And we have very, very, let's say, extreme intake exam session as well, so that it's their pre-assignments, and then there's 1 week assignments for the students. And maybe in that's about how it's going to be in the future, because what we are struggling with, I think the intake exam is too late phase for that, because that needs to be done, the work needs to be done earlier as well, so that people are aware that this is a possibility for them as well. But this is a little bit off the topic, but it is related to the future as well.
Very short answer. I think we have a very similar system. It takes also a week, but the problem is with the applications.
Yes.
If you don't have the applications, what can you do?
Yeah.
My colleague is desperate. He's calling female applicators and push it, do your application. But in the end, the numbers count.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So you cannot do this on your own against the situation when you don't have the applications.
Yeah, it needs to be like Jonathan said, that we just chose the best.
I have the experience from 15 years ago, when stereoscopic 3D entered the industry, that it collapsed. Why did it happen? Can you hear me well? Okay. I think because the creative people on shooting the films were not ready, and they needed hardly more time to adopt and to learn good storytelling to handle this. I still believe in 3D, but I know how tricky and hard it is because I learned something about it. And suddenly it collapsed because the audience didn't want to see weak films anymore. And I think that was right. So then I entered something with a very good colleague of me, Jan Fröhlich, high dynamic range. And I was fascinated by having more light in my camera and on the screen and having more dynamic range to tell stories. I saw it completely from my point of view as a cinematographer. And when I went to my colleagues, for instance, for BVK, I learned that most cinematographers thought, oh, another 3 letters. I'm busy to tell my story. Please leave me alone with that. And I had the feeling they didn't even understand what's behind that because they saw wrong images, something they didn't like, and they were right with that, and didn't understand what's actually the potential of it. And I was fighting a little bit and to tell people how beautiful this can be and how useful for storytelling. And I live this, and I realize the same now. Entering or working on higher frame rates, which is really future thinking, and maybe it's not attractive to most people because they saw bad images looking or having the soap opera effect. They are really not attractive and not magic and killing maybe the magic of movies, and they are right. But now with new technologies, maybe with the help of AI, we are able to shape technically new ways that can be very, very attractive. If I look now around me in the world, there is a sphere in Las Vegas I could visit, and I was overwhelmed. I didn't expect this. I thought I wouldn't like it, but it's fantastic. And if I look around, we have maybe Apple Vision Pro technologies, and they all come. AI is there. So I was wondering, having maybe virtual production around us, maybe we should think about in education to educate besides, and that's very important for me, besides a very classic basic storytelling of cinematography, which is super important, and this is the basis point. Next, take care of the new technologies and maybe have, for instance, directors of imaging instead of photography, because it's not anymore only the photography, it's much more involved. And this is a question of perspective, and I think we should at least discuss these approaches maybe more, because the world around changes. Around us, I mean.
Hi. My name is Alexander Wechsler. I'm freelance cinematography and colorist, and I'm also teaching at the University of Applied Science in Nuremberg, both. And I think it's very important for sure, as you said, to combine the freelance work with the lecturing. What I'm struggling with is if I'm combining them, I don't have any time more for research and for learning new technologies, etc., etc. This is the first point. The second point is I try to observe all these developments in the video generative AI world, and I also observe my colleagues and also the markets and also different areas of filmmaking. And what I see is that in somehow ways we see that it not always not always in a supportive way. It's more like replacing. So I see lots of colleagues working or have been working in the area of corporate video creation and things like that. That they don't have jobs anymore because all the agencies and companies in themselves just create a small department for video, and they hire some young guys who didn't study cinematography or something else, and just buy some licenses of runway, of VO, of the different generative video AIs, and they create really very nice looking videos and images. And so I, for myself, since I'm now working more in a non-fiction non-fiction movies, films, I don't feel kind of in danger, if you can say this word, but I think we should spoke about this kind of danger for not the way, like only the supportive way, but also that lots of things could replace some professions. And what I would like to ask you additionally is about what you think about the urgency to tag video-generated images or videos in this aspects. For example, if your students create a commercial or something, and one of the shots are created completely by AI, is it urgent somehow to communicate that, or maybe a whole movie? So I'm thinking about also my students, how I should work with that and handle this, and if I would, if it's urgent to ask them to tag this kind of things. Thank you.
Yeah. Simple answer, yes. I think at least when you are in an arts school, it is all about authorship, and there you have to be frank how limited or unlimited is your authorship on that result. So the first thing they have to learn that they have to be true, at least to their teachers. Of course, if there is a need for using AI for these shots, and this is part of the teaching and learning process. But the answer is yes, you have to be frank about that. You have to be true about that. There's a different question if you have to be true about that to the audience. I think the audience in 5 years' time will be quite used to see AI-generated moving images, and it will penetrate our audiovisual world totally. That's a kind of pessimistic view that many people will not be able to digest, and many people will not be interested in that. So that's the new generation of audience that we have to face, and if audience is king, we cannot ignore their ignorance.
Yeah, that's actually so true. So it's our task as well to make our students to be aware of that, because the audience perceptions are changing. They do really much, and it's something which we are struggling with, that because we do care so much about it, but do we have to care that how much they care and how we can educate the audience, or can we even? I doubt, because there is some changes going all the time. But this VFX or like the awareness of AI, VFX or whatever, I would say it's simple. To put it in simple, you can also consider that if you're in a production, someone orders you to use for example, alongside the good camera equipment will have the bad one. So I always say that, okay, this is actually defining the level where we are. Same applies to the VFX quite often, that, okay, this is how we're going to execute it. Can I see examples, or can we combine it with something else? Because it can't be stand out from the film. It needs to be on the same level, let's say, like the rest of the film, which has been analog, for example. So how we can do that, because that will affect the whole. And that's the challenge for the future in this education and the aims of applying the modern technologies in the filmmaking. And sorry to say, audience perceptions has changed, and I think that there are a lot of films nowadays which are rather animations than films. And that's, people tend to like them, but, well, I struggle with that fact, actually.
Okay, I'm going to... I have a friend, she's a journalist, she's never done anything in filmmaking, but then she got a new job, and she's working for pharmacists, and normally she has to write articles addressed to other pharmacists, but she started adding little videos, AI videos made of people in a pharmacy, or, and they looked amazing. And they were not shot, they were AI created, and the company she works for, they love them because they are infotainment things, and so it prevents people to have to read the whole article, and the whole concept is just explained in these tiny little video clips. Is that a challenge for cinematographers?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
I don't know. Were we challenged by TV news? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the world is full of challenges. The world is challenged. So don't make a mistake about that. It's not of living on a cloud and playing the lyra. We are on Earth, and it is a challenge, and nobody has a perfect solution. And it's a process. We blunder into that, and even the experts, maybe the experts on first time feel that they are surfing a wave they can barely control. Now I want to mention one project that we did in the Creative Center, but with interconnection with the AI research. And Jean-Paul was part of it as well as an expert. We created a worldwide survey on, we targeted, you all must have received an email by the corporation, Imago supported us as well, to take part in that survey, disruptions ahead, the impact of AI on filmmaking and film teaching. And the results are still, we have to analyze the data, but we had participants from 37 countries worldwide, and we tried to cover all professional fields. And just one interesting first result, preliminary result, is that the young people were very aware and were not the most enthusiastic group on the creative potential of AI. There were many very, very reluctant, very conservative, you could say, and also that the group of the 30s, the people, media professionals, media teachers, film teachers, and film students, well, mostly professionals and teachers between 30 and 39, were lacking of experience and competence on their own opinion, mostly. So those who entered their professional career have the worst experience on being competent for AI-based systems in any kind of, in cinematography, in editing, in text generation, and so on, in art department. But I think it's an interesting result that those of us, of the community in cinematography as well, in the 30s say, well, I'm a little bit overwhelmed by this technology. The same in their 40s and even in their 50s, they were feeling more aware. They were better prepared and more competent. We will give the results hopefully very soon. You can see it on our website and hopefully get some interest on that. It is all very, very fluid, and these results we closed the survey, I think in April, and maybe this is snow from yesterday when it is published, but that's the meantime. And yes, it is a challenge, and nobody has perfect solutions. So the only thing we can do in the teaching is to put that uncertainty into our teaching. We have to be true to our students. That we are not, even if we are experts in not knowing. That's a little bit a contradiction in its own, but it has to be put into teaching, in my opinion.
Of course, we have to integrate these questions in teaching and in the education. And this starts maybe when my students have to design a poster for their film. And so they let ChatGPT do it or whatever software, and then we discuss it and we find out, oh, this is really cliche. Then we discuss what is the cliche, what could be arts, what could be challenge the audience or reach the audience better, and this is all doable at the same time. AI is there, and people will use it, and we have to decide when we have to go beyond this, or when we want AI to do our laundry and the dishes, that we have more time for arts and to think what could be really interesting and reaching the audience in a special way, like what art should do. Make people cry, laugh, all this. touch emotionally.
Any comments out there? Then we should do a closing thing. Yeah? I thought it was interesting. Yeah? Shall we ask ChatGPT if they enjoyed it? So I would definitely like to meet you after this, because this blinding light, I cannot see who's out there. So we will conclude this. Please stay 10 more minutes so we can chat a bit and see how we can connect. What do you think? Yeah. So then that's it for today. Thank you, but please stay.
Thank you.